Hey guys, so welcome back. Another episode. We're doing another one today. I've been on a roll today, so I've been recording quite a few. Um, so I have so much to talk about, I guess, today. Um, so I want to talk about this TV show called Looking. It's on HBO. It came out a couple of years ago, I think like around 20. Let's see the exact date it came out. It was a while ago. I don't think I heard about it, but I didn't have HBO at the time, and I didn't really care. None of my friends were that I knew at the time weren't really talk about it. So looking, 2014. So 6 years ago actually. So it was this new TV show called Looking. It was a drama about this group of gay men in San Francisco. Um, I remember the time when it came out. Only time I heard anything about the show was when other white men talked about it, but I never saw anybody black discuss this show at all. Like they didn't even like it wasn't even on their radar. I think like I never even heard of the show. It's outside like white guys talked about it so much. Like it was so good. It's so amazing. So I'm like, oh okay. So I kept it in the back of my mind for like years. Like I'm like, yeah, that show. And since I've been in quarantine, with the whole, pandemic and everything, I've been needing to find a lot of television entertainment to keep me occupied. And I got HBO Max because I was watching Legendary, which is a great show, by the way. Watch it if you have HBO Max. But of course that show was done. That season was over. I was like, man, I got HBO Max, but I don't know what to watch. So I'm like, oh yeah, I thought back to that show. So I was really into like watching romantic comedies lately. Like I've been watching like High Fidelity on Hulu, another great show. Watch it. It's really amazing. I was watching Lovesick on Netflix, another great show. Go watch it. So yeah, I've been really into like romantic comedy, shows about love and all that good stuff. And I remember looking, like, I have HBO. It's on HBO. Might as well get this HBO Max, use it. So I started watching it, and my God, that show is a train wreck. Like, let's get one thing out of the way first. Like, okay, first of all, the main cast of the show, all white people, except one guy, he's Latino, but he's like the most white passing, Latino you've ever meet. Like, and they do that on purpose. They purposely, used him that way to show a contrast between him and like the more down to earth, Latino. That's the other guy on the show. I'll get into the more characters later. But yeah, the main cast all white. Like throughout the whole entire show, it's like nothing but white people, and I'm like, this is San Francisco. I've been there. There are black people there. There are a lot of Asian people there. There's a high population of Asian people in San Francisco. Why does this show not have any Asian people on the cast or the main cast of the show? Like none, none. So that was a big issue. Was the casting and just just the diversity was lacking, and it was very apparent. So and I got over that hump. Then there were just like these so many like problematic things about this show. Like, it's like okay, so you got the main character. I forgot his name. It's not that important anyway. Um, he's this video game developer in San Francisco. He's gay. He's very traditional, very closeted. Well, I won't say closeted. I would say he's very discreet. Very like, oh, I'm so dainty and so pure, and I don't do that type of stuff. I don't hook up, blah blah blah. Even though the first few minutes of the show, he's actually in the forest trying to hook up with some guy, I guess, cruising. Ugh, that word is so ugh to me. But anyway, but yeah, he comes off as very like holier than thou type of like gay guy. He's really obnoxious in the beginning, and throughout the course of the show, he's trying to like find he's going on dates and stuff, and none of the dates are really working out. And then he meets this Mexican dude on the bus, and Mexican dude is not his usual type because all he dates is white guys, might I add, which is another important plot point that I'll get to later. So he meets this Mexican dude, and he's like unsure about him at first, and he talks to his friends about him, and then one of the important points about him that they decide to talk about is the fact that he's maybe uncut or maybe uncircumcised, which I was like, really? Of all the things to talk about of someone who's Mexican, y'all just sit there and talk about, oh, you might have an uncut dick. Like, that was just so trite. And I'm like, who's writing this show? It must be just some white person's like fever dream about what they would want to happen in their life. But anyway, so he ends up meeting this guy on the bus, the Mexican dude. I forgot his name. Let me go look at the cast again. I don't want to be just saying Mexican dude and all that stuff. That's just rude. They have names on the show, so I'm gonna look at the. Okay, so the main character's named Patrick. He's obnoxious. The Mexican guy's named Richie. So Patrick and Richie, after they meet, Richie invites him to this gay bar. This is more of a urban part of San Francisco, and Patrick's all like, I don't know if I should go. Oh my god, it's like not my usual place I would go to. And he's like, am I being racist because I'm talking about his dick being uncut? I'm like, yes, you are. The fact that he even said that was just like, ugh. But anyway, he goes, he meets him, and they hang out, and he's so obnoxious the whole time. He's trying to like, basically he doesn't want to like, he goes on normal dates, he's all like prissy and stuff. But you go to a date with Richie, he's all like trying to have sex and stuff. He's really like about to have sex. Like, his whole mindset's about sex, and that's pretty much it. And not trying to like really get to know him. And Richie's trying to like get to know him. Try to like build a strong connection with him and whatnot. Patrick's being a complete trash bag. Somehow in the midst of it, they do have sex. I think the first night or second night. I think at some point they have sex, and Patrick's all like, "Oh my god, I had sex with him," and he's just being such a so prissy, like so uppity. It's just so obnoxious. But the way they treated Richie on that show was just irreprehensible. He's one of the few people of color on this goddamn show. If y'all treat him like the token, fetishizing him and all his uncut dick, like that was just so. It was so just upsetting, to be honest. But for some reason about this show, I kept watching it because I wanted to see where we're gonna go with this show. So he ends up pretty much being a complete douchebag to Richie the whole time. Like Richie's being a great guy. He really wants to get to know him. He's trying to like really like build something, and Patrick has an issue with him being a barber at first. He's like, "Oh, you're just a barber? Don't you want to like do this or do that? Blah blah blah." And it's just like, like Patrick is just the most obnoxious thing. And so his friends aren't any better. Actually, you know what? No, the one friend, his older friend, what's his name? Let me get his name. He's like one of the more tolerable characters on the show. His name is, it escapes me. Dom. Did he give him a last name? That's probably good. But anyway, Dom is his older friend, and I think the guy that plays him, Murray Bartlett, he's actually straight, but his character was actually pretty decent. Like he was an older gay, so his whole like thing was a lot different. He wasn't in the mix as much. He had a lot of sex though, but that wasn't a bad thing. It's just like that was like one of his. I thought they were trying to make him into like the promiscuous older man type thing, but that actually wasn't the case. I'm glad they kind of like shifted him to something more substantial in his character arc. But as far as like Patrick, just trash. Like I think, the real trash part with Patrick came is when he had a party at his job, and he was meeting all the new people, the new developers they were having for this new game they're going to make. And he met this one dude that he was so sure was gay, and then he had made a pass at him, and he was just being obnoxious, and he finds out that's actually his boss and whatnot, and everything's okay at first, but then it finds out they start like flirting and stuff, and then Patrick's like, he's still with Richie at the time. Eventually him and Richie kind of like come to an agreement and kind of like come to terms with their apparent like infatuation for each other, and Patrick starts acting like a dumbass. And he's like, you know what, I'm gonna take a chance on Richie and we're gonna see how this goes. So they're together by this point. I think it's like midway through the first season, and then Richie is being really sweet, really nice, but at the same time Richie is, just a barber. He doesn't have a degree. He doesn't have all these things that, Patrick's used to. Patrick comes from like this really like very astute white privileged family. So like Richie is very much again, the complete opposite of all that stuff. So I think they got into an argument or something. I don't know. It was just like a lot of this show is kind of like blurred, but I'm trying to get like the more important parts. So eventually, him and his boss end up having sex because his boss is garbage, and he was like really infatuated with Patrick for some strange reason, and they end up having sex at their office where they work at night one day, and it was just really like, are you serious? You getting like raw by your boss at work after hours? Oh, that was another thing. That was another plot point. So Patrick's like doesn't like being penetrated, and that was like a big deal. Like he didn't want to be penetrated by Richie for some reason, and he let his boss like just raw him. Like his boss is actually English too. Um, he let his boss just raw him like the first time that they were like gonna do it, and this is like he was still with Richie at this point, and he looked so like after they got done having sex, he looked so silly. Like he just looked like so like miserable. But before that, he was just like thirsting over, being like, "Oh my god, he is so hot," and blah blah blah. And they end up having, and then it's like you end up letting this one man. So the man you was so supposedly in love with and wanted to build something with, you see yourself being a bottom for. But this dude at your job that you just met not too long ago, you let him raw you like at your job, at your job. Like I was floored. So he ends up breaking up with Richie, and then and then I think that ends season one, and then season two isn't any better because he's like, oh yeah, his boss has a boyfriend too. That's another thing. So they're both cheating on each other. So season one is pretty much the build up to him breaking up with Richie and being his boss's like little cum dump. So then season two starts, and season two is him trying to like be like independent and new and blah 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 and more spontaneous, all that stuff, which doesn't work because the first episode of season two he gets rawed again by his boss in the woods. They went to like this weird party in the wood type thing. It's like nothing but white people there. Oh, it's like bears are there. I think like a bear what was a convention? It was like a bear retreat or something, and there's another like party going on at the same time. So him and his friends go, and then they go into like this really crazy rave party thing going on, and he's like doing. I think they do ecstasy or mushrooms. I forgot which one. Did they do mushrooms? I think it was mushrooms. I forgot. It was one of those drugs. Not that important. What's important is that he ends up calling his boss to come have sex with him in the forest. Like, and he came too. He came all the way from wherever they were in San Francisco to this forest place they were at, just to have sex with him, and then he went off into the sunset. It was in the middle of the night though, and I'm like, oh my god. So the main way through this whole show, Patrick is like the cum dump for his boss, while his boss has a boyfriend at the same time still, and they're like hiding away and like having like secret rendezvous and stuff, and going to hotels and stuff like that. It's just like, are you serious? You're letting this man raw you and have sex with you, and that's your boss? Ugh. I think midway through it, like it takes a while, but they end up, his boss ends up breaking off his relationship with his current boyfriend to be with Patrick, and their relationship is garbage because they really don't have much relationships. To be honest, like they end up moving in together, and then it's just such a mess of a show. Like it's just so much messy stuff that happens. It just seems unrealistic. It just doesn't seem like real life. It's like he was just doing stuff just for shock value or just to be like absurd and obscene. And Richie, the guy who plays Richie, was really great. He was a really amazing character on the show. Because even after all the stuff that Patrick did to him, he was still there for him. Like at the very end of, because at the end of the season two, they have an issue. They move in together eventually, and they went to this party. Oh yeah, the party. Forgot about that. Oh, this party at this condo they live at now. So this is the end of season two, and they go to this party, and it's nothing but white people, of course, because there's nothing there. And then all of a sudden, like Patrick's like more self-aware. Like, oh, what about this Ku Klux Klan like party you're trying to make me go to? I'm like, so now all of a sudden you're like aware of diversity all of a sudden because you're at this white all white party with all these white people. They're trying to have sex with this little orgy and stuff. But the other episodes prior to this, you didn't care about being in diversity and all that stuff. Like, it just seemed like stupid to me. Like, I think they were trying to, like, I don't know, be self-aware of the people's criticism about the show at the very end of it. But it just seemed kind of like weak because you spent like all these episodes not addressing any type of diversity or any type of like people of color on this show, and then all of a sudden now you're at this party that's like turned into an orgy, and now you're talking like, oh, this Ku Klux Klan MAGA party, like really, come on now. So that was really weak, and then he got upset at his boyfriend because he still had Grindr on his phone, and his boyfriend wanted to be open, or at least he wanted to have like a hall pass where if he did have sex with somebody else, it wouldn't be a big deal. They wouldn't break up because of it. And Patrick's very traditional. It's like, oh, I could never see myself being, open like that. I want to be closed. I want a committed relationship. I feel like if you have to do all that, you don't really love me, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I really don't even care at this point. Like, you really thought this man that you was having sex with repeatedly was gonna be faithful to you only? Like, come on now. That's not the way he was working to begin with. It's not gonna be the way he works now. Like, I don't understand your relationship with somebody. You try to change them for their core things about them. Obviously, him wanting to be open with something he really wanted from the get go with his other relationship, but he couldn't get it. That's why he cheated with you in the first place. And now he's able to start a new relationship. He's gonna try to be more true to himself, and you're trying to like stop him. You met him under pretenses of cheating, so of course he's gonna do the same thing now. Like, this show was such like, part of me wanted them to like, the hopeless romantic inside of me wanted this show to be good because I love seeing like gay relationships on TV and stuff like that. It really warms my heart. But at the same time, this show is just so problematic and just so like, I'm not even scratching the surface about what's really wrong with this show. There's so many other like subplots and stuff with other characters that are just so trash. It's not even worth me to talk about. I think the more important thing is just talking about the main character because I think he's like the core of the show anyway. So I feel like talking about him is more important. But yeah, this show is just like garbage. It only had 2 seasons, thank God. I don't see how we got to 2 seasons because, man, whoever's watching this show, like, who was sitting there thinking, man, this is really great of a show. He's out here doing like, he's out here being shitty to like people of color, and then he's being letting this white man like completely destroy him. Like, it was just so crazy. And I know that's kind of like real life, how like white men like prioritize other white men, but they treat people of color like garbage. That's literally what happened with this show. That's literally what happened. He treated Richie like garbage because Richie wasn't up to his standard, what he thought he'd be supposed to be with. But then the guy that was supposed to be up to his standard was treat him like actual garbage. Like, it was just so. I don't know. I watched it. It was entertaining. I'll say that. But as far as like a good representation of gay people, no, that show is trash. Like, it's so much drama, and the drama is so like manufactured. It didn't feel like it was realistic. Nothing about that show felt realistic. It felt like so just trite. And the reason what caught me to watch it in the beginning is because of the fact that the guy was a video game developer. He was in video games, and the whole thing about him with video games wasn't even a big plot point through most of the show. Like, his love of video games, you barely even saw until like maybe the episode when they had the Halloween party, and he dressed up like what's that guy's name from Half-Life. That was cool, but outside of that, it was like video game wasn't a big deal. It was more so him trying to figure out if he wanted to be a bottom or not. And then like, him being a top or a bottom was like a big point of the show too. Like, he kept announcing it like, oh, well, I'm more versed now, or oh, I'm more of a top now, or I'm like, why is it such a big deal? Like, you're making such a big deal about if you're a top or a bottom. Like, I don't know. It just seemed like for his big age, it felt like really weird for him to be sitting there announcing that. Like, I think he was like 28 or 29 on that show. I think that was his age, somewhere around there. Like, if he was like 23, 24, a lot of stuff on that show I would have forgiven a lot more. But seeing as how Patrick was that old, acting that stupid, like, I just couldn't. I mean, I finished it because I said, why not? It was like kind of a hate watch, but. So yeah, that's kind of like my feelings on Looking. Looking is pretty awful, but if you want something like really silly and stupid to watch, and you don't want to like, if you don't put yourself in it and get really invested in it, it's a really decent watch. But if you get like easily triggered by stupid shit, that's not the show to watch. But if you got HBO Max, you got time to spare, and you want to like waste it on a TV show, I wouldn't say. I mean, there are better shows to waste it on, but I mean, if you want to watch something gay, I mean, that's an option. So what do you guys think? Did you watch Looking back in the day? Did you watch it now? Would you want to watch it? Because I pretty much told you how garbage it was. So the chance of you actually watching it are pretty low. But let me know in the comments below what you think about this show. Thanks for watching my long rant, and I will see you guys next time.